putting me on CNN. I didn't even know. Once again, should I keep my phone off? The twitting community likes me. So. I'm Raghava. I'm an artist. I come from Bangalore via New York. I was very unhappy for a while with my work. I was not proud of it. And one of my friends said, that's probably because you're not giving back. And that is essential in happiness. It's absolutely essential. So I'm trying to do that. I just spoke with Al Gore about working with him to bring his ideas to children. I love working with children. For me, I get a lot of energy from them. I don't feel silly. I'm happy to be silly with them. I want to share with you my latest art project. It's a children's book for the iPad. It's a little quirky and silly. It's called Pop It. And it's basically about the things that little kids do with their parents. So this is about potty training, as most of you, I hope, know. You can tickle the rug. You can make the baby poop. You can do all those fun things. You can burst bubbles. You can draw, as everyone should. But, you know, I have a problem with children's books. I think they're full of propaganda. At least an Indian trying to get one of these American books in Park Slope, forget it. It's not the way I was brought up. So I said, I'm going to counter this with my own propaganda. If you notice carefully, it's a homosexual couple bringing up a child. You don't like it? Shake it. And you have a lesbian couple. Shake it, and you have a heterosexual couple. You know, I don't even believe in the concept of an ideal family. I have to tell you about my childhood. I went to this very proper Christian school taught by nuns, fathers, brothers, sisters. Basically, I was brought up to be a good Samaritan, and I am. And then I'd go at the end of the day to a traditional Hindu house, which is probably the only Hindu house in a predominantly Islamic neighborhood. Basically, I celebrated every religious function. In fact, when there was a wedding in our neighborhood, all of us would paint our houses for the wedding. I remember we cried profusely when the little goats we played with in the summer became biryani. We all had to fast during Ramzan. It was a very beautiful time. But I must say, I'll never forget when I was 13 years old, this happened. Babri Masjid, which is one of the most beautiful mosques in India, built by King Babur, I think in the 16th century, was demolished by Hindu activists. This caused major riots in my city, and for the first time, I was affected by this communal unrest. My little 5-year-old kid neighbor comes running in, and he says, Rags, you know, the Hindus are killing us Muslims, be careful. I'm like, dude, I'm Hindu. He's like, oh! You know, my work is inspired by events such as this. Even in my gallery shows, I try and revisit historic events like Babri Masjid, distill only its emotional residue and image my own life. Imagine history being taught differently. Remember that children's book where you shake and the sexuality of the parents change? I have another idea. It's a children's book about Indian independence, very patriotic. But when you shake it, you get Pakistan's perspective. Shake it again, and you get the British perspective. You know, hi, everyone. I want to share with you my personal journey, you know, instead of just showing my art. There's a sort of a cliched saying that you can take an Indian outside India, but you can't take India outside, out of the Indian. And it's very true for me. I'm a hardcore tam-bram mama's boy. Even when I go to fancy restaurants, I say, you know, can I have some curd rice, please? You know, I come from this family tradition where my father, very early in my life, gifted us these bedtime reading books, Piskunov and Iridov. And you touch the bloody book and you feel you bit into a chili, you know? Every member in my family has raised the bar of academia so high. I said, what's the point? I'm like, I can never beat these guys, so let me do a U-turn on them. And I became an artist. And, you know, I wanted to be popular. I started drawing. I started drawing a lot in class. But I have a philosophy on education. I thought I should be education like a business. And I was like the CEO. And I said, I have a twin brother. I'm very lucky. And he was studying the same. None of us had failed, so we were in the same grade. And he used to do all the studying all night. Like a TED Talk, he had to give me a 30-minute executive summary in the morning. And that's it, 30 minutes, 2 phone calls, and I was ready for my exam. I always did better. You know, I wanted to be popular in school, so if you're really brilliant, people suck up to you. If you're extremely rich, they'll even wash your cheddi, you know? But I had something that was even better. I could draw nudes. And I got into a lot of trouble. I got into so much trouble that I almost got kicked out of school, and I was only in the 2nd grade. I'm not a pervert. I mean, but, I used to watch my mom draw, of course, art, nudes. My father is a bit of a philosophical type, One day he was having a stiff whiskey, a good one. I knew that was his favorite. My brothers and I sat him down, thought it's an opportune moment, and we said, Pa, what do you think about education? Why should we go to school? He loved those kinds of philosophical questions, thank you. And he went off into a sort of a whole ramp. He said, it's about learning. You should learn how to learn. It's about discipline. It's about good citizenship. He gave me a whole list. Quietly, we were taking notes. A week later, we came back and said, Pa, I've decided I'm quitting school because, I will do all of this from the real world. The poor man, we used his philosophy against him, and I quit school, and I started traveling. And I started traveling, and the first place I went to was the United States, because I believed that this man, Rannan Lurie, was there. He was my favorite cartoonist, and I wanted to meet him, and I said, if I go to America, I can meet him. So I went to America, 100 emails, phone calls, letters, bad cartoons, everything that I could do to get his attention, no news. The day I was leaving America, I called him. His secretary picked up. I said, just tell Mr. Lurie I'm pissed off with him, because I've come. This is my first international flight. I've crossed 7 oceans. I am here in America, and he doesn't meet me. He owes it to me. He's my guru. And before I could even finish my ranting, she put him on the phone. And I was like, Mr. Lurie? And he said, just get your backside here. I'll give you 5 minutes. The 5 minutes became a whole day. And it was the most special day in my life because I learned 2 very amazing things. It was rumored he was so powerful in his political cartoons that Hitler was after him. And he fled and sort of took refuge in the United States. He said, art really comes with responsibility. But if you really want to study art, work with children, because they're bloody creative, and they're honest. And so he said, work with them. That's what I did. I started my own school, and I started traveling. And as I traveled outside the house, I realized that there are houses that are different from my house. I grew up in a bubble. I didn't realize that, for example, dads can have tattoos, and moms can be dads can be moms. Anything can happen, I'm a Tambram, remember? I told you that. And thank you. And so I decided, I'm going to burst. My bubble's going to burst. I'm going to accept different ecosystems, and I'm going to live a different life. After traveling so much around the world, I still really believe that India is the finest place on earth. Not because, thank you. I'll tell you why. Because it's the most impossible democracy in the world. You have a mosque and a temple sharing a wall. You have the richest of rich and the poorest of poor sharing a wall. You have Hitler, some reminiscence of his ideology in pockets around town. You have the extreme left and the fundamentalist right, like sharing. There'll be neighbors exchanging milk and curds, but they'll be shooting each other down academically. And I love that. And I think that's what really makes me. When I said, you can't take the Indian out of me, that's what I mean. I see myself as a complex system of perspectives, multiple perspectives. See, that's colorful India. In fact, I feel like if I tell someone, what do you do? I'm an artist. It's a bit of a caricature because I'm not just an artist. I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a teacher, I'm a student, I'm a bit of a politician, I'm a businessman. I sell beauty. I do all these different things. And it's so ridiculous to think I'm only one thing. So, speaking of caricature, this is India, Pakistan, by the way. It's a little cartoon I did to share with you. But before, we're talking about caricature, I love complex systems. I love complexity theory. I love conceptual art. But I also love Rajinikanth and Govinda. And I'm sure you guys do too. I thought I'd give Rajinikanth a run for his money. That's me and my wife at my wedding. And it was quite a crazy affair. Even my own personal life has gone through ups and downs. I've been larger than life. I've been extremely low. This is a stage when I was larger than life. And our wedding had 7,000 guests. It was a big art installation. Artists from everywhere worked for free with me. It was really cool. But what happened is, that's our apartment. I painted it up. I had the auto rickshaw inside. We'd drive it around the apartment. It was really fun. But, you know, in the midst of all this excitement, my mother fell very sick, and I completely fell emotionally, financially. My inspiration went. My works really sucked. I felt empty. This flamboyant life didn't make sense. And, yeah, everything fell apart. Everything that I knew. My works turned extremely dark. I was fighting with the body. I was fighting with the mind. I thought the mind and body can totally abuse you and take over you sometimes. And I was stone broke. And I was not used to that. And I never thought I would put myself in this situation. I went to the United States with my newly born son and my wife because she said, I'll get a job, I'll teach. And so we moved there. And for about a year and a half, really made no money and were up to my neck with debt. And since then, of course, I've had another avatar, and things have really changed. In fact, I have some exciting news for me. A series of works of mine have sold up to $250,000. And I feel like from nothing, we've gotten a place where, how do I make sense of this? I mean, 2 years ago, I can't even create art, and then suddenly it's overwhelming. And I want to leave you with my latest art project and one thought. My latest art project is a little naughty, but before that, okay, I'll tell you. I'm trying to create the future of journalism and education. You remember that book where you shake it and the gender changes? This is a little different. It's the New York Times, and it's a newspaper. You shake it, and you get Al Jazeera's perspective. You shake it, and you get the Fox perspective, both sides. And for education, I want history to be taught through perspectives. Everything is perspectives to me. I want to share with you some of my latest work. As a matter of fact, every 2 years I show in Bombay, and I have a show going on right now. It ends in 3 days, so try and catch it. It's at Art Musings. And I'm going to leave you with one thought before I go. I have children, and I think, what kind of bubble am I going to bring my children up in? And I say, I can't promise my children a life without bias. We're all bloody biased. But I promise to bias my children with as many perspectives as possible. Thank you so much.